Hey guys, my name is Julia and I'm the creator of that channel. Today we will discuss the story you sent me. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and leave a comment down below. So let's start it.
I caught my wife red-handed with AP in my house. Tuesday was my wife's birthday, and I took off early and picked up flowers for her so I can surprise her. But boy, does she have a surprise for me. I walked in the front door. There's clothes scattered from the front door all the way to our bedroom. At first, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. Then I realized it was men's and women's clothes. Apparently, I got home right after they got through having a little fun, and they were in the shower cleaning up. Apparently, she likes it in her backside, even though she won't give it to me. I can hear them laughing and giggling about how great it was. I was so freaking numb at that point. I took a step back, went into the living room, and sit on the edge of the couch for a couple of minutes. My mind was just racing. Then I saw all of his stuff lying on the floor. I picked up all of his clothes, took them out to the driveway, then dumped charcoal starter fluid on them and set them afire. The only thing I did not burn was his keys and his phone. When I walked back into the house, my wife was standing there in a towel, just staring at me with a stupid look on her face. I told her happy birthday. She just started crying. He comes walking out in a freaking towel wrapped around him. I told him to get the heck out of my house before I punch him. Because at this point, I'm just about to lose my stuff. He starts looking around for his clothes, and I told him that they were in the driveway. He goes to the door and sees his clothes burning. He is screaming, "What did you do?" I hand him his keys and his phone and told him to get out of my house. Add to give me my towel. My wife starts yelling at me, telling me that I can't do that to him. I can't offend him like that. I look at her and tell her you didn't have a problem offending me. You'll let him do it in your backside, but not me. My wife looks at him and tells him that she will get him a pair of sweats. I told her if he touches any of my stuff, I will punch him. She said you can't do that. You can't send him out there like that. I said stop trying to protect him. What about protecting me? She just gets this blank look on her face, like she didn't understand. The guys start walking towards me, saying he wants a pair of pants at least. I told him no, get out. That's whenever he tried to grab my arm. So he got to take home a black eye along with no pants. What a freaking disaster. Just because I wanted to surprise my wife on her birthday. Update. A little bit more about us. I'm 36, she's 38, and we have a 16-year-old daughter. I threw my wife out on her birthday. She's living with her mom, who is also a cheater. I have not spoken to her since Tuesday. She's been blowing up mine and our daughter's phones. I had to explain to my daughter what her mother did. Not in details, but just that she cheated, so she is so heartbroken and angry. I retained a lawyer this morning. I finally texted my wife and told her I retained a lawyer, and I will meet her later on today so she can try to explain herself. This is probably a bad idea, but I need answers. Is there a standard list of questions that I should ask? Because right now I can't think clearly. Whenever I found them, they were in the shower. It was all steamed up so they didn't know I was standing at the doorway, and I could hear them laughing and giggling about the love contact they had just had, and how he loved her backside because it was so tight. I texted her and told her I did not want to meet up today. I just can't stand to look at her yet. She started blowing up my phone with phone calls and texts, swearing that she can change, saying that she's already gotten rid of that a-hole, whoever he was. I did tell her not to delete a damn thing from her phone. I want to see all of her texting. Texting whatever she did. Update. Sunday morning. We met at a local coffee shop this morning. I was recording the conversation with my phone on the table. She wanted to know why. I told her frankly I didn't trust her anymore. She started in saying that she wanted to save our marriage. I ask her why, because she's already given up on it. Because she wants to be the wife and the mother that our daughter needs. I told her it's a little late. She asked if I was ready to throw away 16 years of marriage. I threw it back in her face. I'm not the one that cheated. I asked her who the guy was. Apparently, he's a stay-at-home dad from one of the homeschooling programs. I told my wife that she has to contact his wife and tell her what she did if there's any hope for us in the future. I asked her how long it had been going on, and she said 2 months. She said she feels guilty and remorseful for what she did. I told her she felt guilty and remorseful for getting caught, not what she did, because she didn't have any intentions of stopping. She started crying, saying that she knew it was wrong and that she was going to stop. I told her to stop lying to me. I asked her to give me her phone, and she did. To my surprise, she had not deleted anything off of it. She showed me all the points where they started getting closer. She told me how many times they have met up and had closeness. I asked her why she could take it in her backside from him, but not from me. She said that she was the wife and mother, and she didn't want me to look down on her for her desires. I threw it back in her face. I said I wouldn't have asked if I would look down on you. She showed me the text where she told the guy that she could not have contact with him anymore. She wanted me to tell our daughter to please contact her, that she wanted to talk to her. I told her, "No, it's her decision. I will not force her to talk to you." I also expressed that she needs to get into counseling and fix herself because there's something seriously damaged inside of her. And that I contacted a lawyer and started separation papers. At that point, she just completely broke down and started sobbing. I told her she had 60 days before the papers were done for her to show me some sort of remorse for what she did to me and our daughter, and not just a shame and guilt for getting caught. I told her at this point she needs to just move in with her mother until we can figure out the future. I told her to go get an STD test. And I told her that even though we're separated, I want to know exactly where she is at all times. I want a tracking device on her phone, and I want her to check in with me, because if I found out she even whispers to him, I will take her for everything. At this point in my life, I'm questioning my entire marriage. I feel like she could have cheated the entire time. I informed her of that too. She promised that it was a one-time only affair. I told her I don't believe her. If you can do it once, you can do it 100 times. I informed her at this point, I am through with our marriage unless she can give me a reason not to leave and to stay in it. But the mountain you have to climb is a very large mountain. My daughter and I had to make an 8-hour emergency drive home yesterday. My cheating wife took a bunch of pills on Christmas Eve and was rushed to the emergency room. She is still hurting us, so we are all back under the same roof. So I guess she got what she wanted. I'm telling her later on today that we're done. I can't live with her. She is still being selfish, and she traumatized our daughter on Christmas Eve. Last night, I had a long talk with my wife. I told her that we are divorcing, and she started to fall apart. I informed her that she has done too much damage to our family, and her little stunt on Christmas Eve seriously traumatized our daughter. Her selfish behavior is unacceptable, and I can't deal with it anymore. She can go and live with AP if she wants to. I really don't care anymore. I realized yesterday I don't feel anything for her. I don't know if it's the trauma or what, but all I can think about is moving forward without her. I told her that she had to find a new place to live. She keeps telling me she wants us. She chooses us. I told her that she would still be with him if I wouldn't have caught her, and I'm okay with her going to him. She said he doesn't want her. No surprise, she reached out to him. So I'm her fallback plan. She said she doesn't know what she is going to do. I told her that she should have thought of that before her affair. I think we are through. I packed up all of her clothes today and put them on the back porch for her to come and get. I'm also going to AP's house tonight to talk to his wife. Update. I decided not to talk to affair partner's wife. Frankly, I just don't care anymore. It doesn't matter what anybody says. I am done. The only thing I can focus on now is moving forward for my daughter. My soon-to-be ex-wife is still out of the picture. I have chosen a no-contact route with her. My daughter has the option of talking to her if she wants to, but so far she has not wanted to. From what I understand, she spends most days barricaded in her room at my mother-in-law's. She has been pretty much abandoned by everyone that knows her. While I don't feel sorry for her, I do pity her. Update. Last night I had a change of heart. I went over and visited the other betrayed spouse. I had a packet of information that I had collected about the affair. I gave that to her and explained everything I could personally to her. She asked me if I was the one that offended her husband. I told her yes. She said that it was strange the day he came home in his gym clothes with a black eye. He told her that he had been in a road rage incident. We spent about 40 minutes talking. I explained to her that I was divorcing my wife, and I told her the level of betrayal these two had committed behind our backs. While I was standing there, she called him and told him not to come home and that she knew everything. This morning, she reached out to me and asked if we could meet again. So we are going to spend some more time together going over all this evidence, hopefully between the two of us and our divorce attorneys, because I'm pretty sure she's headed in that route too. Update. I have unblocked my wife, so we can communicate about the divorce. She has agreed to an uncontested divorce. We are splitting the assets 60-40 on my favor. I'm keeping the house, and as of right now, I get full custody of our daughter. Right now, verbal communications is at a minimum, and mostly just about our daughter and the divorce. And she has tried to talk to me about the affair a couple of times, and I shut her down. There's nothing else I need to know about it. I did confirm that she has broken it off with the guy, because there was some information shared between me and the other betrayed spouse that I know she sent to her husband, and my wife does not know anything about it, because she would go crazy if she found out. So less than 6 weeks from now, I should be happily divorced. And I have found comfort in spending time with, we will call her M, the other betrayed spouse. We are helping each other through this.
And now, the second story.
I made a big mistake and cheated on my hubby. I am deeply sorry, but I was shocked when my husband did this to me. 2 months ago, my husband, 27 male, caught me, 25 female, in the midst of a 7-month affair with a coworker. My husband was overseas for work, which severely hindered our communication and closeness. At the same time, I was starting out at a new job in a new city, and this guy felt so compatible and magnetic. It was easy to talk to him, and talking turned into an emotional affair, which turned physical. It felt like destiny in the moment, but of course, looking back, it's nothing more than a run-of-the-mill affair. It is the worst mistake I have ever made in my life. I regret it so much, and I look back and cannot believe I could have been so stupid and selfish to a person I love. I've completely cut off contact, and I've given my husband access to all my phone records, emails, online accounts. I let him track my location, and I make it a priority to answer his calls, even if I'm with a client at work. We've been in weekly couples counseling, and we're reading a book together, not just friends. And despite a few rough patches, we have been getting along pretty well for the last 2 to 3 weeks. He's been able to say, "I love you" again, though he makes it clear that he does not mean unconditionally. I am investing in this marriage like never before, and I'm doing everything I can to put his every need above mine. I make extra effort to cook for him, buy him snacks he likes, keep the apartment extra clean, dress up for him when we go out, satisfy him in bed. I ask him regularly how he is feeling, if he has anything he wants to talk about or questions I can help him answer. In the beginning, he would obsess about the details, but I've come to learn that he responds better if I take the initiative to check in with him, to let him know that I'm not just trying to sweep things under the rug. I know that I'm the cause of all the pain I put him through, and at the same time, the one he wants to help him heal. Despite the progress we're making in therapy and in reconnecting with each other, he still has occasional episodes where he is inconsolably angry, malicious, and outright cruel. He brings up things that I know I can't change, things I know I did wrong, and reminds me how stupid I was. He tells me I'm not worthy of his love because I was so irresponsible with the love he gave me so purely in the past. For the last few days, he has started to demand uncomfortable acts in bed that I've never done with anybody, and rationalizes it by saying that I made our bed life cheap by sharing it so freely with an outsider. When I tell him that this makes me feel depressed and crushes my sense of self-respect, he lashes out and asks how I can respect myself after what I did. In those moments, I honestly don't have an answer. I just look at him, and I see no love at all in his eyes. It feels like the loving, caring husband I once had has become a monster of my own creation. I feel like he is purposely pushing me to my limits, just to see how much suffering I can take and still come crawling back to him. I get it. I offended his trust and shook his foundation, and now he wants to see what's left binding us together. I am so remorseful for what I did, and I wish more than anything I could take away his pain. I guess that's the reason I suffer through it, and carry on through the ups and downs to try to make him happy again. But at the end of the day, despite all I do for him, I feel worthless, unappreciated, unlovable. I feel like a 403 when we have closeness. I feel like I'd be better off dead, so that he doesn't have to deal with the burden of staying with a cheating wife, so he can be free to find true happiness with someone who will never betray him like I did. Please help me. I'm devastated and I'm desperate. What more can I do to bring him back?
Thanks guys for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye!
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. "Meetings should be for employees only." Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized." Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. "All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason." "What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do." "I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please." Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, "Yes. That's Nick for you." Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? Alright, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.